Now, Mr. Barnes,
Mhm.
we turned off the camera and a couple of things came to mind, so I want to make sure that we get those added. Something was mentioned about a piece of pie. Let's start there.
When I got to Germany, must have been around the 1st of November, and when we had our Thanksgiving dinner, we had a nice turkey and everything, but no dessert. And our captain made an announcement and apologized for no pie. And he said, I guarantee you that every one of you will get a whole pie for Christmas. And we did.
What kind of pie was it?
A pumpkin.
Ooh.
I think it was all pumpkin.
I suspect so. So he made good.
Beg pardon?
I said so he kept his promise.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another thing I'd like to mention, my son reminded me that when I was going over on the ship going to Europe, in the middle of the evening there, I was by myself, and I went up the upper deck, and I stand at this railing, and all I see is sky and stars and ocean and water. And the thought that comes to me, and I never have forgot it, was how important I am to this world. Nothing.
A little bit of water gives you a little perspective.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to cover? Anything else?
Anything else? I don't think so.
Did you have a chance to go to baseball and play pro ball?
No, I did
Oh.
not. When I came home, I played some semi-pro ball, and my wife and I got married, and in 3 years we had 3 children, and that pretty well. She said that I had to take care of the kids on the weekend, and that pretty well curtailed the baseball playing, which I understand.
Right. What team did you play for?
When I came home from service, I played for Geneva, Iowa, and we played once a week. And then when I came to Quincy, I played for the Quincy Red Caps for 2 or 3 years, and we played where the old Johnson Park, I think it was Johnson Park, where Notre Dame High School is now. And we played about once a week there.
Did you meet your wife before you went to Germany or before
I knew
service?
my wife when I was 8 or 9 years old. I was born in Quincy, and we lived here until I was probably 13 or 14 years old when we moved to Iowa. Yes, my wife, when she was little, was a neighbor of mine.
Oh,
Yes.
excellent. So she said maybe child raising and maybe less baseball. She said more taking care of the children and less
Yeah.
baseball.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
How many years were you married?
I think we were married 60, right at 60 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. She passed away, I think, 6 years ago.
Bless your heart. Yeah. Anything else?
I'm taking
I don't
him
think
out
I
for
have.
breakfast.
I don't think I have anything
So you have an opportunity to have a free breakfast. I heard that.
else. Well, over the years, I run stories by him. He remembers, I forget.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's wonderful. All right. Well, if that's it, I'm going to turn it off.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we are interviewing Raymond Edward Barnes at the Adams County Courthouse. He is 87 years old, having been born October 6th, 1926. My name is Katie Ambler, and I'll be today's interviewer. Mr. Barnes, could you state for the recording what war and what branch of service you were in?
Second World War in the Army.
Okay. And what was your rank?
Staff sergeant,
Where did you serve?
Germany.
Now, did you start in Germany or did you do basic stateside?
I did basic at Camp Livingston, Louisiana.
Okay. And then you went to Germany.
I had a week at home, and then I went to Newport News, Virginia, boarded ship, and we landed in Le Havre, France, and we went across France and part of Germany and arrived at Mannheim.
Okay. And how long did you spend in Mannheim? How long did you spend in Mannheim, Germany?
Approximately 1 year.
Okay. And during that year, were you immersed in the German culture?
No, not with the culture. The only Germans that I was familiar with was the prisoners that worked with us.
Okay. Now, you said that you worked with German prisoners.
Yes.
How did Mannheim, Germany come to have German prisoners?
That I don't know. Personally, I was in charge of 3 German prisoners, and my understanding was they were treated as prisoners when they were on our company area, but once they went home, they could do whatever they wished. So it was my understanding they were prisoners as long as they were with us.
I see. Okay.
They were there when I arrived.
And they were there when you left.
And they were there when I left.
And
yes.
do you know how long they had been there as prisoners?
I do not know.
Okay.
I know.
Did you have the opportunity to bring back any kind of mementos of your time in Germany?
The only thing I can recall really was a cigarette lighter that had our company logo on it. I had it for years, but I've lost it now. I don't have it anymore.
And what company was that?
341st Quartermaster Company.
Okay. You talked a little bit about your assignment working with those prisoners. Do you know what your MOS was, or your military specialty?
I didn't understand
Okay.
that.
Do you happen to know what your military specialty was? Do you know what your job classification was?
Yes, when I first got to Mannheim, assigned to the 341st, I worked in a warehouse, a large warehouse, underneath the sergeant. The sergeant went home in about 2 months after I arrived, and they put me in charge of the warehouse. And I guess I would be called a warehouse foreman.
Okay. And what were the prisoners doing for you? Were they workers?
Yes.
Okay, so they
Very
were
good.
laborers.
Very good workers.
Okay,
might
excellent.
add.
Now, were you ever exposed to combat, Mr. Barnes?
No, I was not.
Okay. Were you ever asked, or did you have reason to come into contact with people who had been directly in combat?
Yes.
Okay.
When I arrived in Mannheim and went to work in the warehouse, my sergeant had seen a lot of combat. Yes.
Do you know where he had been? Are you familiar with where he had been in combat?
No.
Okay. But you yourself worked primarily with the prisoners in the warehouse.
Well, yes, we had 3 prisoners and then 2 GIs,
Okay.
2 soldiers.
Now, during your year in Mannheim, did you have any other types of job duties? Did you do anything else besides work directly in the warehouse?
Yes, in the summer of 1946, a notice came on the bulletin board that they were going to have tryouts for a baseball team. And I tried out and I made the team, and I played some baseball that summer.
What was the name of the team? What was the name of the baseball team?
The only thing I remember was we called Mannheim.
Okay.
That was about it.
Was it a German city team or a military team? Was it a German city team, like a
No,
or
it
a
was military.
Okay, okay. And you played other military
Yes,
groups?
yes.
Okay. For your time in Mannheim, or really for your time in service, do you have any citations or medals?
No,
Okay. And were you ever involved in any kind of operation or military maneuver that would have involved battle planning?
put in Bell.
Battle planning, like
No.
okay, okay. How did you personally get along with the other officers and soldiers and even the German prisoners?
Very good.
Did you ever feel pressure, anxiety, or stress during that period of time?
No, I don't think so.
During your time, did you keep a personal diary? Like, did you write down your thoughts? Did you keep any kind of notebook or anything having to do with your time in service? We'll start over, okay? During your time, did you keep a diary or a journal of your time, playing baseball, working with the prisoners? Did you keep any kind of written documentation of your time?
I'm sorry,
That's okay. We made the agreement that if you didn't understand what I was saying, we would go through it again. Okay? No problem. You've done exactly. I needed to know. During your time there, okay, did you keep notes?
No,
Okay. So no written journal or diary?
no.
Okay. What would you consider to be some of your most memorable experiences there?
Well, I suppose this camaraderie with fellow soldiers, and then of course I really enjoyed playing baseball, and I just more or less enjoyed my time,
That's
whatever I was doing.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the baseball. What position did you play?
Primarily a pitcher,
Really?
but I also played some shortstop.
That's fantabulous. How many games did you guys play in a season?
We normally played 2 a week, usually on a Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
Normally.
Did you guys have to travel to other German cities?
We had a short travel, so we didn't travel very far. We had a dilapidated old army bus that we rode back and forth in. We hardly went more than, probably our farthest trip would be probably 100 miles.
That's fairly close to home.
Yeah.
Okay. You talk about the camaraderie amongst the servicemen or service persons. What do you remember fondly about that? I mean, what made it so comfortable?
One afternoon, I was sitting in my room and somebody knocked on the door, and I went. It was an MP. I recognized him. We had lived together in Camp Livingston, Louisiana, took our training together. He was an MP down in Heidelberg, and he wanted to know if I had time to get on his motorcycle and ride to Heidelberg. And I just ride around the country, and I had a very good friend from South Dakota that we visited back and forth. Now he was in the same company I was. Just a good group of guys.
Do you still keep in touch with them? Any of them? Do you still?
No, I do not.
Okay. And while you were over there, were you able to keep in touch with your family?
Yes.
Okay. How did you generally contact them? Was it by letter?
Yes.
Or, okay, so written letters?
Yes.
Okay. And did you send a letter home A month? A week?
I probably rode home, I would estimate every other week.
Okay. I bet they were happy to hear from you. Did you have something that you had that you considered a good luck charm? Did you keep anything with you as like a remembrance of home or a good luck charm?
No.
Okay. Did the Army provide all the supplies necessary? You were never without?
The Army supplied everything that I needed. I was in the Army, 18 months, I believe, and I never had a hungry moment.
That's good. I was actually going to ask you that. You knew I would. How was the food?
Food was adequate at best.
I think you're being nice. They tell us all those stories about what the food was like. Give me an example of what would be normal for food for you guys. What were you eating?
You mean, what was the menu?
Yeah.
Well, like for breakfast, we always had eggs any way you wanted them. And 2 or 3 times a week, we'd have sausage or bacon.
Mm-hmm.
And then for lunch, maybe a salad and a soup.
Mm-hmm.
And then for dinner, we'd always had meat, potatoes, and some kind of vegetable and dessert quite often.
Mm-hmm.
We were well fed.
Yeah. Was there something food-wise that you missed from home?
I don't really think so. Maybe, I suppose the only thing I really missed was fresh milk and ice cream. We didn't have none of that.
No, that would be hard to store. How did you entertain yourself in your downtime besides playing baseball?
We played cards, and then in the evening we had a beer hall where several friends of mine would go. It was company sponsored. It was in the company, and we would go to the beer hall and drink a couple of beers and lie to each other.
Yeah.
You know.
Best way to drink beer. Were there any entertainers that came to your unit?
No.
Interesting. Okay. What did you do when you were on leave? Well, let me back up. Did you have leave over there? Did you ever have leave while you were in Germany?
No, I did not.
Okay. So the only leave you had would have been stateside.
The only leave I had was delaying route.
Okay.
I never had a furlough.
Okay. And you said you came home during that time.
I did.
Okay. While you were in Germany or while you were in overseas, did you ever travel?
Did I travel?
Mm-hmm.
Just with the ball team, really, and like I said, MP friend of mine on his motorcycle go to Heidelberg. We never traveled very far.
Right. Somewhere, as you said, but 100 miles or less.
I would say within 100 miles, yes.
Okay. Do you recall anything that specifically stuck out to you as funny or unusual while you were there? Things that caught you as being out of the ordinary?
Well, the thing that sticks in my mind, being unusual when I first got to Germany was there was a young German boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, that hung around in the company area. And I got acquainted with him, and he told me that his mother did laundry. And so I asked him how much, that she charged. And he said she don't charge anything. The only thing she wants is when we furnish our clothing, and we also furnish a bar of laundry soap. She wanted to keep whatever was left of that bar of laundry soap for her work. And she done very good work. We have to realize that at that time, money didn't mean much to them. They traded cigarettes and chocolate and soap. That's how they bought things.
Anything else like that about the bartering? About what did you trade cigarettes or chocolate for? What would you trade the cigarettes or the chocolate or the laundry was
Well,
for laundry.
Well, when the boy would bring my laundry back, I tried to make it a point to give him a candy bar or a pack of cigarettes or some fruit if I had any. Just this type of thing.
Right.
But her basic price was just the remainder of the bar soap.
Interesting. Did you and your other service persons pull pranks on each other?
I didn't understand you.
Were you ever between the service personnel? Did you guys ever pull pranks on each other or create mischief? Okay.
I still didn't
That's
understand
okay.
you.
That's okay. We'll keep working. Did you ever pull a prank on someone that
prank.
you were with? Yeah. Did people pull pranks?
Yeah, I suppose one of the pranks when we were in Louisiana that was pretty common was during the day you find one of your buddies sleeping. Why, you'd either put shaving cream in his hand, or another trick that they did a lot was if you had his hand hanging down, you put his hand in a pan of warm water and he would urinate. And this type of thing.
These kind of things, yep. Anything besides those kind, mostly sleeping type of pranks? Were they mostly men sleeping type of pranks?
Yeah, I don't remember too many pranks when we was awake.
I got it. Did you happen to bring any photos that you wanted to have scanned today? Did you bring any photos of your time in service today?
I had a few photos, yes.
Mm-hmm. And you had those, did you have those scanned today?
I don't have them no more.
Okay, okay. I think they possibly did scan those, okay. Do you have memories about the photos that you want to talk to us about? Can you tell me a little bit about the photos that you brought?
Not really. The only photos I'd like to talk about was when we came home on a victory ship. We got into New York Harbor, and there was camera people come and took pictures of the ship and personnel. And then, if I remember correctly, it cost like $5, and then it would send the pictures home. Well, a couple of months after I was home, I got my pictures, but it wasn't even the ship I was on. I think these people took pictures and then went on all these other ships with just empty cameras.
Oh, interesting.
And I never have forgot that.
Oh, I can imagine. Oh my goodness. Do you recall the day that your service actually ended? Do you know what day that you left service? What was
What
the day
day I was discharged?
Discharged, right, or separated?
When we landed in New York Harbor, we were bused to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, and debriefed. And being I had not had any furlough time, I was told, this would have been in October of 1946, I was told I would be released and could go home, but I would not be discharged until the end of November. And then at the end of November, the Selective Service Board at Franklin County, Iowa called, and I went to them and they had my discharge for me then.
Okay, so you basically were furloughed.
I basically was furloughed, yes.
Okay, and then you actually were discharged in Iowa.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. And at the time that World War II ended, you had fulfilled your military service, correct?
I didn't understand you.
Okay, time frame wise, okay? What are you entered service on what date?
I entered service in May of 1945.
Okay, and so for the official period of World War II, okay, at the time that you came home, World War II had ended, correct?
At the time I came home, yes, ma'am.
Right, because you said you came home on a victory shift.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Were there others discharged in that same way, furloughed and then discharged with you in Iowa?
I am not familiar with any, but I'm sure that they all treat us all about the same way.
Understood.
Some of the fellows that I took training in Louisiana were the same people that I was connected with in Germany, and we came and went pretty much the same.
Okay. Now, after discharge, what did you do in the days and weeks once you had basically on furlough and then had been officially discharged? How was your time spent?
When I left Camp Kilmer, New Jersey, and went home, I rested up for about one day, and the day after that, I went to work for a local dairy, and I worked. While I was supposed to be on furlough, I worked at the dairy.
And what did you do for the dairy? What did you do for the dairy?
I was a milkman, delivery.
Delivery?
Yes.
Is that a job that you had before service? So were you coming back to the same job, or was that a new job?
I was a student in high school when I got drafted. That was really the first full-time job I had.
Okay. And did you ever use the GI Bill? Did you ever use the GI Bill they offered to
No,
allow
I
you to
did
go?
not.
Okay. Okay. Those friendships that you talked about, the MP who,
Mhm.
and your other friend from, I believe you said North Dakota?
South Dakota.
South Dakota, I apologize. You said that you do not currently still speak with them, but did you, for a period of time after service, did you keep up with them?
Not really. I think my friend from South Dakota came to Quincy years later, but I was not at home at that time. But I think my son and my wife said that Mr. Opitz from South Dakota had called, and that's about the only time that I had any connection with them.
Do you ever attend World War II reunions of any
No,
kind?
I do not.
Okay. Do you have, I mean, when you returned home, did you become part of any kind of veterans organization? Are you a member of any
No, I am not.
Okay. How do you feel that your time in service affected your life, if you believe that it did?
I think my time in service affected my personal life. It made me grow up, be an adult in a hurry, and I have no regrets about serving my country, you know, and I enjoyed my time.
Have you ever been thanked for your service? Have you ever been thanked for your service?
Have I ever been thanked for my service? Oh, maybe not personally, but when you have parades or this type of thing, I take it personally and feel like I'm being thanked, yes.
Okay. Did your time in the military affect your thinking about war or military service in general?
I don't think it really did. I suppose my time in service made me realize how horrible war is. Mannheim was an industrial city, and I mean, it was bombed. And if I hadn't have been in service, I'd have never seen that and maybe not realized how evil war is.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Has your view of the government and their choice to go to war or to pick or to be involved in war changed since before or after your time in service?
I didn't understand that.
Understand it wasn't very well asked. Let's start over. Has your view of the government and the choice or the decisions about war, have those changed since the time in service?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Do you ever see war movies?
Oh, yes.
Okay. From your era or from any era? Do you see Korea or World War II or Vietnam? Do you see all era movies about war?
I've probably seen most of them, but my preference is World War II, and if we have a movie about a war in Vietnam, that don't interest me none.
Okay. Do you feel like the ones that you do watch are accurate depictions of what war was like for you? So let's say World War II. If you see a World War II movie, do you feel like that's an accurate depiction of what you saw?
I'd say it's 90% accurate, yes.
Okay. And what's your opinion about war and history as they teach it to people today in school? Do you feel like that's, do you have an opinion about how they teach World War II in school today?
Oh, I don't really know anything about how they teach anymore. So I couldn't really answer that.
What's the most positive thing you think you took away from your experience in service?
I suppose the most positive thing that my service time proved to me was I was an adult and I could keep up with any adult activities. I could do about any job that I was asked to do, as long as it didn't require too much education. I suppose that it just made me feel grown up, yes.
Was there anything, or what was the most negative thing you felt about service? Did you have something you felt was negative about service?
What I thought was dangerous about,
No, I apologize. Was there anything you felt like that was a downside or that was negative about having served? Was there anything bad about having done it?
well, I kind of think that basic training was kind of overemphasized. If you did something wrong, which I never had to do it, but if a soldier did something wrong, a small item, maybe like flipping a cigarette butt in the street, something like that, you had to go and dig a 6x6x6, which I thought was very stupid. And I think that when we get to basic training, they try to make you feel small. You don't amount to anything, and I think that was overemphasized. But that's about the only thing. Once I got out of basic training, I thought the Army more than treated me fairly. Yeah.
How long did you spend in basic? Was it 3 months or 6 months?
17 weeks.
17 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. And we talked about this just a little bit, but you went from basic where?
Where I had basic, Camp Livingston, Louisiana.
Okay. And then you talked about the furlough and going to France and ultimately to Mannheim.
Yes.
Okay. Was there any other place that you served stateside?
No.
Okay. What other things would you like to talk about when it comes to your time in service? Other things that were memorable?
I don't really have anything that stands out, really.
Besides baseball.
Huh?
I said besides the baseball, right?
Well, yes. Of course, I really enjoyed that.
Certainly understandable.
But,
Do you
and
remember what?
I think too that when I first went into service, there was a group of fellows from Iowa, Minnesota, and North and South Dakota. We were one group, and then in the same company was a group from Arkansas and Oklahoma, and I couldn't help but notice or think how backwards the Southern boys were. uh, it didn't dawn on me in 1945 that there were still kids that could not read or write. I couldn't believe that, but there were.
That's something. Did you grow up Midwestern? I mean, are you from the Midwest generally?
Yes,
Yeah. So you tell me just a little bit about that. You had people who became part of that first company who were illiterate.
yes,
Okay. And that's surprising, I would assume.
that surprised me. Yes,
Yeah.
it really did.
Yeah. Were there other things like that about different parts of the country? You know, obviously you grew up in Iowa. When the troops and when your fellow service persons got together coming from different parts of the United States, were there other things that were, culturally or regionally different, like the education? What kind of other things caught you as unusual?
I didn't quite understand what you asked, but like in basic training, usually your friends or buddies you were close with were people from your own area. In my own case, people from Minnesota and North and South Dakota was the people that I hung out with.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So people tended to stay with people
Yes, they certainly did. Yes.
From their region.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I want to make sure that if there's anything that you want to specifically talk about, because I've asked the questions that they've asked me to ask you. I want to make sure that if there's anything else you want to talk about, that we do that. Is there something else that you feel like is significant from your time in service?
That I what?
That was significant from your time in service?
No, not really. The only thing significant I suppose that I learned was how little money it took to live in the Army because they furnished practically everything. And I do remember I was asked early about my pay, how I wanted that spent, taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that I had told him I wanted to receive $5 a month, and the rest of the money would be sent to my mother, who put it in a bank for me for when I got out of service.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I don't remember what we paid. I got a figure. I think it was $21 a month, and I received $5. And I know when I got discharged, I had enough money to buy an old used car. So
What kind of a car?
it was a 1937 Dodge.
How did your family do during your time away?
How did my family do?
Right, your mother, your siblings.
I think they did pretty good. My father was a farmer at that time, and while I was in service, he quit farming and moved into a town and went to work for an electrical REA is what they call it, rural electric, where he
Mhm.
strung the wire and so forth. And I think I was the oldest of 8 children, and I think my brother and my sisters all did very well. You know, I couldn't see any difference in them.
Interesting. You say REA, is that what we generally call like a rural electric cooperative today? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you get the job at the dairy when you returned?
I was in Germany, and my uncle wrote me. He raised had cows and sold milk to this dairy in Hampton, Iowa, and he told me that they were going to need a delivery man, and they would hold the job for me until I got home if I would guarantee him that I would take it. At that time, all the guys were going home. Jobs were very scarce. And of course, I agreed. And I went to work, I think, a day after I got home. And I worked 7 days a week delivering.
Hard work.
And it wasn't hard work. It was well-paid job for them days.
Anything else that you want to be sure that we talk about?
I don't really think so.
You've been a pleasure. I was gonna say it's been very, very, very nice to interview you.
Okay.
I think we'll stop for the moment, and then we'll someone should say thank you very much for your service. We
I
do
still can't hear you.
thank you for your
Oh.
service.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Time for breakfast?
Yes.
Okay.